Hey everybody, welcome to the Gutsy Women Club. I'm Dr. Brenda, and I am here today with Queen Kimmie. Queen Kimmie is a transformational life coach, and you can find out more information at queenkimmie.com. So, welcome, Queen Kimmie. I'm so happy that you're here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Brenda. I am happy to be here. It's an honor. It's an honor, right?
I'll, I'll tell you what, you've got a lot of talking to do because, I don't know how you got the name Queen Kimmie. So, I kind of feel like I need a queen or something from my name. So, I don't know. Tell me about Queen Kimmie. What is that?
Queen Kimmie was not my choice. Queen Kimmie is a name that was given to me by people who know me and love me. They call me Queen Kimmie, and a lot of people call me the boss lady. My background is leadership. I am retired United States Army. And when I retired from the United States Army, I had the opportunity to reinvent my life and create my own little world, my own little universe, in which we call our company Scatterbrain Kingdom, of which I am the queen, of course. And in Scatterbrain Kingdom, it is just a world of continuing to be able to use my leadership skills for training and leading and helping others to live their best life. And instead of being so serious about it, because I've been so serious my whole life in the military, the boss lady, right? So I wanted to bring an element of fun and play while we're learning and growing. I want to continue to learn. It is a lifelong journey of learning and growing and learning who we are, being who we are. And imagine when we do that without taking ourselves so seriously.
So, it is very interesting because the military is all rules and regulations and straight faces, and you've like transformed yourself. I mean, how does that happen? How do you okay, I'm retired now, I have to reinvent myself, and you went like, you're on the other end now. How did that happen?
The transformation in my life from the military happened because I, like everybody else, thought I was so prepared. I'm ready for this. I'm excited to be retired. And then the loneliness set in. The missing the structure, the discipline, the orders, missing all of those things, the element of having the camaraderie in place. You know, when they say we do more in the morning before most people do all day, they were not kidding. We really did. I remember sitting around the tables at 6 a.m. doing project management, so we can be in front of people at 6:30 to give that project, hey, we planned this at 6, we're giving it to you at 6:30. That's the plan, project management, right? So with all of that, you start to miss that. You start to miss being of importance, of being a part of something bigger than yourself. You miss being a part of helping others change their lives. And you remember how it was for you when you started. And you remember, hey, if I had this when I started, I would be so much better. I would have been so much better. So you want to fill in the gaps of what was missing for you when you started on your journey.
So it's kind of interesting because, like you said, whether we retire, or leave a job voluntarily, or uh, we're living in such a difficult time now, economically, socially, politically. And so we've got, folks who now maybe they've identified with their career and their career is no longer there. And so, like, you talked about going through a period where you were depressed. I mean, what kind of advice do you have for people who are now like, oh my, as you get older and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm in my 40s or 50s and now, my career ended because of the economy or because of something. Now, how do I recreate my identity, my life?
Mhm. That is everything my entire existence centers around. The mental resolve to reinvent your life. Oh, I love this question so much, I just had to repeat it. The mental resolve to reinvent your life. I honestly think for me, I reinvented myself so many times in my life that when I was at that point of, I'm so depressed, I'm so sad, because not only was I depressed and sad, I also have some chronic illnesses that I have to deal with as a result of my retirement. And so I deal with these things on top of being a mom, on top of running 3 businesses. But I had to find that what someone else told me, or by having my identity wrapped up in someone else's existence or something outside of myself, I was setting myself up for failure. I was setting myself up to be depressed because I was comparing myself to what I felt I should be accomplishing or where I should be in life, instead of being grateful for where I was at that moment. So when I recognized that what I was doing to myself was not only affecting me, but it was affecting people around me, my husband, my kids, my families, my friends, my life, I started to see a pattern. And I started to say, well, you know what? This person said the same thing right here that this person said, and they didn't even know each other. And I'm retired. What's going on? So when you start to notice patterns in your life and you hear things like, well, that lesson's going to keep showing up until you actually conquer it, until you actually face it. So I had to say to myself, why are you depressed? What are you depressed about? What can you do to change it? That's not in your scope to change. What do you want to do? What makes you happy? There's a series of events and a series of questions that you start to ask yourself. You start to put yourself in an environment to grow. And I started listening to DVDs and motivational and surrounding myself around people who could help me.
It's one of the things that we talk about is, and we've all had this experience of being around people who sort of zap our energy levels. And
Mhm.
for me, anyway, as I've gotten older, it's like I just can't deal with that. I'm going to pick and just who I hang out with, and that has become very critical in my own levels of happiness. But it's so what do you say to women who have sort of these negative forces that tell them, that's a dumb idea, you really can't do that, and they're caught in these relationships that are not benefiting them? I mean, tell me about, how do you surround yourself with more positivity?
When you're surrounding yourself with more positivity, it's important to ask ourselves, what is the importance of this relationship to me in my life? What am I getting from this relationship? Why is this relationship important to me? Is it worth putting in the effort to savage it? Or is what it's doing to me taking me so far away from who I am that I should let go? So there's like challenging relationships in our lives, but we can't just run away from them just because it's a challenging relationship. You have to ask yourself, well, this is a challenging relationship for me. Why is this challenging for me? Why do I care that it's challenging? And a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to cut this person off and I'm going to go find positive people. You go and you find positive people, and then those same problems, issues, and concerns are going to come up because you didn't deal with them. So when it's challenging people, you ask yourself, well, what would that person say about me? What makes this a challenging relationship? I can run away and hide, or I can stand and I can face and say, okay, what am I supposed to learn here? So that I cannot classify this as a challenging relationship.
So can you back up? Like, I'd love to know more about like your childhood, how you grew up, and whether you had positive influences. I mean, that you went into the military at
Mhm.
what age, and was that something expected? Did you break the rules? Tell me about your childhood.
My childhood was one, I grew up in South, a very small town. If you ever saw the movie Friday Night Lights, when the town was shut down to go to football games,
Mhm.
that's where I grew up. Okay. And growing up in the South in a small town where I grew up, there's a lot of closed mind, a lot of closed-mindedness, and you're cut off from a lot of things in the world because you're taught that you work hard, you grow up, work hard, you get a job, you work 30, 40 years, you retire, and that's just what you do. Anything outside the norm, you're considered crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You're considered psycho. You're considered, you better get in line and get yourself an education so you can get a proper job to be an upstanding, productive citizen of society. Okay. Well, me growing up, in the 6th grade, I had a teacher who was retired military. And in the front of his classroom, he had a globe. And I love to read and adventure and travel. And he had a globe in the front of his classroom. And Miss every day we would come in and the globe was called Big Ben. We had to go up and we had to point out 4 places on this globe. He would call them out and we had to identify where's this place. And my little 6th grade mind will never forget seeing, whoa, there's a world outside of my little small town. And so my uncle pulled me to the side one day. He said, your mind is amazing. The way you think is too big for this little town. You're going to leave home. You're going to go and you're going to do things. And I'm proud of you and I want you to go. And so when I left my small town, it was like a big fish, a little fish thrown into this big pond. And so I really had to learn to swim. I grew up very Bible-based, church-based. We were always in church, learning, firm foundation. And I am homeschooling. And I forgot to tell the kids that I was homeschooling. And I'm doing the video. And hi, Brenda. This is my son, Sean. I'm homeschooling, and Sean's gonna give us about 15 minutes, and then he'll come back and finish his schoolwork. He doesn't mind. Okay, take your computer with you. Thank you. Yeah, he has to be in class in 2 minutes.
Ooh, what grade?
He is in the 10th grade.
Okay, what a difficult time to be a student.
Yes, he is in 10th grade, and this is his last year for high school. He'll be leaving next year to go off to college so he can get ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
Something like
So you, I mean, I grew up in a very small town too, and I always like a misfit. Like, God, I don't belong here, and there's so much out there. But I was it was like, I didn't fit in. I mean, I don't. That was sort of your experience too. Graduation day was like, hey, I'm getting out.
Let me tell you, when I left home, I did not even tell anybody I was leaving. I just left. Okay, I left. I have been on my own, living and surviving on my own since I was 16 years old.
Wow. Now, did you go directly into the military?
I did not go directly into the military. I did not. I had to go through abusive relationships. I had to go through being homeless. I had to go through being abandoned. I had to go through being molested, raped. I mean, I had to go through so much before I found the intestinal fortitude to say, hey, girl, get your shit together. And as I started to do that and get my life together, that was just one point when I got my life together. And I was like in my early 20s. So when it became time for me to retire and I'm so depressed and I'm thinking, oh, woe is me. I'm thinking, wait a minute. There have been many times in your life when you've had to overcome things, and you did. What did you use then to get you to where you are now? So instead of throwing away my old story, I started to find substance and value in my old story. And then I was able to reinvent it.
That is, that is an incredible story, and it is part of your story. And it also, I think, teaches how resilient you are and how resilient you will be in the future. Don't you think?
I'm gutsy. What do you mean?
So, I mean, some of the women who are going to be watching this, and I worked on justice reform in the area of domestic violence and also elder abuse and exploitation. And so I am sure that there are women right now who are going to be watching this who are in abusive, whether they're physically abusive, sexually, emotionally abusive relationships. And how it can feel very hopeless at the time and dangerous.
Mhm.
So, what kind of advice could you give those women who are, currently now, like, in a similar place?
Mhm. The advice that I would give to those women would be the exact same advice I would give to myself. I am very to get out of that relationship, to get away from that. I left everything and I left everybody. I had $200 in my pocket and I went to the bus station and I bought a ticket and I left. You hear me? I had to do so that I could be whole, so that I could be safe, and so I could be alive for my kids and for those that I love. And I had to learn to value myself. So whatever you have to do for you, what it feels like right now, just know that whatever we're doing right now is setting us up for tomorrow. So if you're doing something today, if you have breath in your body, you can set yourself up for a better tomorrow by knowing that you just have to get out and make a decision to start.
Hmm.
Take the steps necessary to get yourself to where you need to be so that you can be. First of all, I had to get myself safe. Okay, that was my first step. I had to get myself safe because I literally was telling everybody, help me, and nobody would help me. They were like, oh, you're just going to go back anyway, which I did. I ain't going to lie. I would leave, I would go back, I would leave, I would go back. It was just one of those crazy things. But that was so long ago for me. When I think about what I did, I made a decision to get myself to safety and do what I needed to do for me. I had to cut that cord.
Well, it feels also as, when you're young, when you're in your teens, you're in your 20s. And,
Mm-hmm.
I grew up part of the women's movement, and now I see women, the younger women, who really define themselves by being in a relationship with a man. And that seems more important than being true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, Miss Brenda, I love that you brought that up because that takes into a nice segue of Scatterbrain Kingdom. So when we're talking about Scatterbrain Kingdom, one of the first things that I did was I had to learn myself. And in learning myself, I started reading, started learning about all different cultures. And one thing that really stood out to me was learning about the 7 levels of self.
are you going to share?
And we talk about the 7 levels of self, we're talking about the 7 major chakras. I feel, I think, I know, I speak, I love, I am. So when you start to learn these and you start to master these things, it becomes a journey, basically. It's a journey. And as you're on this journey, you're learning more about yourself. And the more you learn about yourself, the more you're able to love yourself. And the more you're able to just show as yourself and be gutsy enough to just not really care about, hey, I'm living my life as best I can without causing any intentional hurt, harm, or pain. And I'm giving everybody else the space to do the same. What could be better than that?
I've done several interviews now, and there's a theme that runs throughout this interview, and it's curiosity. Many of the Gutsu women are just they're curious about the world we live in. They're curious about the culture, but there's also a sense of adventure and curiosity about what the future will bring.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the way you feel as well? It's just like, hey, this is I'm in a cool now, but where am I going to be next year? It's going to be even cooler?
Oh my gosh. Did you really ask me that question? Do you really want me to answer that question?
I do. I do.
My vision. Have you ever saw the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate
Oh,
Factory?
yeah. Both
Okay.
versions.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So I'm the original version of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and Mary Poppins all combined with a little Anne of Green Gables. So I am the hope. You hear me? I am the hope. It is my dream that we can create a world of bold, outspoken storytellers. That's what BOSS stands for. Bold, outspoken, soulful storytellers of everybody owning the essence of who they are and giving everybody else the right and the space and the privilege to do the same. Can you imagine if I'm bold enough to say to you, hey, Miss Brenda, this is who I am. This is how I'm showing up. This is my purpose, this is my mission. And you say the same to me. Now, I know exactly who I am. You know exactly who you are. Now we get together and our light is just shining and we're out and we're in our communities and we're making a difference. And now we have this effect. And now this is the legacy that we're passing on to our children and our children's children. Because the legacy, when everybody's talking about generational wealth, no, 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 no. Generational habits, generational functions, generational love, generational awareness of who you are and how you're showing up in the world. So we're talking about being gutsy, for me being gutsy because I want my kids to be gutsy. I want my nieces and nephews to say, my auntie's gutsy, so I can be gutsy.
It's, yeah, I mean, I agree, but it's also like something you grow into. I mean, don't you feel that way? I mean, you've kind of grown into the woman you are right now. You know, that's 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. I'm sure you were a quite different person.
Oh, let me tell you, you grow every single day. Every single day. I'm a lifelong learner. I love learning. And like you said, I love to learn and read. I'm curious. I ask questions. I'm always the one in the room. And you say, I'm the one that professors like, what now? I'm that person. So when you say 20, 30 years ago, I grew into this person, I think that I was always this person. I believe I was always this person. And I believe that we are all already exactly who we aspire to be. I never owned the essence of this person.
That is, a really good perspective. I think about, where I am at this point and kind of, hanging out with the cats in an RV in South Carolina at the moment. And it's like, but I had to sort of go back into, what are the things that made me happy and who was I as a kid? And do I have the guts to just say, heck, I need to travel and I need to be out here and I need things. And so in a way, you're right, but it's like everything in the middle is doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm, great career doing this and doing that, but it's like, now what? So it's interesting because so at the Gutsy Women Club, there's it's a bit of a roadmap, but it's really basic. It's about dreaming, planning,
Mm-hmm.
saving, and then doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's that fourth piece, the doing, that takes the most courage because we talk ourselves out of it. I mean, it's how do you get to that point where you're like, okay, this is where I am, and now I have a pretty good idea of where I want to be, but I've got to take that step. How do I have the courage to take that step?
The way that I put this, I have a talk that I do, and it's called Fed Up. Fed Up stands for when you get tired of your fear, excuses, and doubt, which is FED acronym, you will become unapologetic about your purpose, which is up. So when you get fed up, you become unapologetic about your purpose. So take your fear, doubt, and excuses, which is FED, and get up so that you can go up.
I
So
love
become
that.
unapologetic about your purpose so that you can go up.
That is terrific. I'd not heard that. Is that's you need to brand it if you haven't. And
Well, I need to brand that, but that is one of my signature talks called Overcoming Doubts and Excuses.
so you are a motivational speaker, and what who do you talk to? I mean, what kinds of events have you done?
Mm-hmm. My last assignment in the United States Army, I was the Chief Learning Innovation Officer for the United States Army. We went around and we bridged the gap of learning innovation, where I look at something in the physical and I have to say, okay, this is what they're doing in the physical, and create that in the digital world. Do you see how my life was set up for what I'm doing right now? So as a writer, developer, and instructor, when I was doing all of that and I came to this side of coaching, it's like I'm online, I'm coaching, and I'm helping emerging business owners and mostly first generation entrepreneurs turn their ideas into reality by owning the power of their story. Stop being a scatterbrain, stop being a scatterbrain and go to focus brain. Because when you can peel back the layers of who you really are, you find yourself being a Mary Kay consultant, a new skin consultant tomorrow, to the next day, a life coach the next day, a booking agent the next day, a travel consultant. Oh, now I'm overwhelmed. I want to go get a job. No, because when you're serving in your purpose, your gift makes room for you. And when we find out this is exactly who I am, this is my story, and this is how I'm showing up. So you say, oh, this is why I do this. This is why I do this. When you go through those seven levels of self to identify who you are, now your dream becomes crystal clear and the universe can rise up to meet you because you're rising up with perfect vision. You ever heard the saying, make the vision plain? Write the vision, make it plain. So if it's plain, if it's clear, if you know what you are, when somebody comes to you and say, hey, do this, you're like, oh, that's not in my scope. I'm focused. I'm following this one course until success. And the only way I'm going to follow is if it's in line with my purpose.
So, do you think, though, that makes a lot of women in particular uncomfortable?
It does. It does, because a lot of us already feel like, oh, I know this about me. I know this about me. For example, Miss Brenda, do you believe my whole life I thought that I love to cook?
You mean you don't?
No, I enjoy cooking. I mean, I enjoy cooking. Who does? I mean, I enjoy it. But guess what? It wasn't the cooking that I enjoyed. It was the reward and gratification that came from serving others after I had invested the time, effort, and resources in creating something for them to enjoy. That is what I enjoyed. But I didn't know that about myself. I thought it was surface level because I was scared to peel back the layers of those onions and find out. I had a client. I have a client right now. She says, I want to build this, this, and this, but she doesn't even realize that she's already operating in her gift. So she's right now on level 4, and I already see the change. And she's like, oh my God, I thought I wanted to do this, but I wanted to do this, and I can just do this thing to get me to this goal. Yes, we're taught to work so hard that we overlook the obvious thing right in front of us.
It's also, I mean, you have to be open to being vulnerable. And I think today, with all the social media, and I mean, one of the difficult parts for me is, you know, my coach is like, just go on video. It's okay. Do this. And part of you is like, I got to do the Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and you get people who judge you, and so you want to be vulnerable, but by being vulnerable, you're also open yourself up to some hurts. So it's like you've got to be vulnerable, but still have a hard enough shell to get through that mess today.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100%. Like, you have to be vulnerable. For me, starting out, that was one of the hardest things for me. Remember my background. I had to be tough. I had to be strong. I had to be a warrior at an early age. So when you're talking about showing weakness, when I thought vulnerability, I used to equate vulnerability with weakness. I thought if I showed vulnerability, I was showing you that I was weak. And if I show you that I'm weak, I cannot lead because nobody will follow a weak leader. You see?
Right.
So I had to look at that and say, well, I went through some trainings, of course. And one of the trainings was, well, wait a minute. What if you look at it and say, well, if I'm vulnerable, I have a more human element and I'm able to lead more effectively because I'm able to connect and resonate with the people that I'm serving.
It's interesting because I think today we still have. I'm trying to put this all nice and politely. We have leaders who are just like, they don't want to have a discussion. They're not open to other ideas. The response is to send in the military. Excuse me, but it's like it's we still live in a man's world where vulnerability is equated with weakness. So it is difficult to operate in that environment and be, I would think, especially for men, being sensitive is not a positive trait in our larger society. So
Mhm.
it's, I would love for you to, I want you to go back to sixth grade, and I hope you've told that teacher what an influence he was. But go, go back to sixth grade, and that globe is in front of you and you're spinning it around, are there places that you would love to visit?
Oh, I have. I want to travel the entire world, the entire world. So, yes, I even want to go to other planets. So, that's not a fair question. But right now, if I could go any place on that planet, if I could go any place on that globe, um, this is going to sound so cheesy. When I'm sitting here thinking, if I could go any place on that globe, it would be like, is there a place where all the lost souls go? Is there a place where our loved ones go when they leave? Like, is there a place to access heaven? Like, where are the portals to get to your loved ones that have transitioned on? Like everything that I've ever wanted to do in life that I dreamed of when I was a kid, I've been blessed to live it. The military has afforded me the opportunity to travel the world. I've traveled the world. I've met all types of people from all walks of life. There's probably only 3 continents that I haven't been to. Yeah. So I've run a full race. I've led a full life. I've been really blessed. I've had a lot of ups and I had a lot of downs. So to think, where would I go? It would be to visit a person that I love. It wouldn't even be a place.
That's
Wow,
that's
I didn't expect that. But
that
yeah, it wouldn't
yeah.
be a place. It would
No,
be like,
I get it. I lost my father several years back, and I'm driving this RV, and
mhm.
sometimes I look in the passenger seat and I talk to him, because
Yeah,
he loved to travel, and I'm like, "Hey, Dad, can you believe where we're at today?" And it brings me some comfort, and I can go on for another hour, and I'm like, "I'm glad I'm driving and not you, Dad, because you were a bad driver." So
exactly. And
yeah,
that's
yeah, I get it. I get it. I totally get it.
yeah.
Um, I want to
That
touch
was a
on.
good
Uh,
one.
well, interesting. I want to touch on something you mentioned because, um, we've got folks who are dealing with health issues and chronic health and chronic pain, and I know you mentioned that that has been part of what you deal with too. And I've also, been there where it's like all I can do is focus on getting through the day. It's very difficult to get into the dreaming about something great when you are just bogged down with pain or worries. So how do you personally address manage through chronic health issues?
When I have a day that I'm having a lot of pain and I'm in tremendous pain and I'm having a flare up and I can't get up and I can't function, I am so fortunate to have a great support team. I literally say, I have this thing, so I know the importance of a support team. I have a support team. They'll say, hey, what do you have to work on today? I'll take care of that for you. So, one, I have a support team in place to help me out. I make sure that I keep my schedule free and flexible. And so when I'm working with people and I'm putting myself out, I'm like, freedom and flexibility is at the top of my line. So I make sure that I do things in line with the way I want to show up and the way that I want to live my life, and not the 1% or the 5% chasing dollars in the world. No, I'm literally living my life in purpose, and that allows me freedom and flexibility to take care of me. So if I'm having a flare up and I can't move that, my team will bring my computer to my bed, and I might work on it, and I might just look at it. But that's the beauty of having a support and having a business that can be run automatically. You know,
Right. Right. It's also I think it's important that you kind of like be kind to yourself and not give yourself a hard time because you can't function that day. It's like, this is my life and this is what this, tomorrow hopefully will be better. But that's a good approach, and it's great you have that support.
also, and I don't beat myself up either. If I have a day when I don't feel like I can get to something, it's very important that I'm aware of how I talk to myself. When I first got out of the military, it was this. Oh, they used me up and threw me away. They took all the best pieces of my life. I can't do nothing. Woe is me. And now, when I'm having one of those days, it's like, okay, this is a part of life. I know that this is coming. I know that this is going to happen. What can I do in this moment? I'm in tremendous pain. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't go inside of my body and nerves and say, get over here. I can't change what I'm dealing with. So what can I do in this moment? And I notice when I start to talk to myself that way and I say, no, no, no. And I correct myself immediately on the spot so that I can continue to love on myself, because when I'm hurting and I'm in the pain, that's when I need the most love.
Yeah. It's that change in your mindset has been pretty remarkable, and yeah, it makes a big difference in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to give you a chance to talk more about how people can contact you and connect with Scatterbrain Kingdom, and so go ahead and plug away.
So I go by Queen Kimmie with an IE. I want to make sure I clarify. I'm Queen Kimmie with an IE everywhere. And if you type in Queen Kimmie 101, Queen Kimmie with an IE 101, I'll come up everywhere, because I know the importance of branding strategically across social media. So it's going to be the same. So I fed the internet what I want you to find. So go ahead, queenkimmie.com or Queen Kimmie with an IE. Just type it in. You'll find me.
That's great. That's terrific. Any last piece of advice that you'd like to give the audience?
I would love for the audience to know the importance of community. When you're going after your goals, your dreams, and you're reinventing yourself, it is very important to have a community of support surrounding you, encouraging you, motivating you, uplifting you. And when you feel like you don't have that community of support, or you're looking for that community of support, think about Queen Kimmie, because we have the majestic pride. And inside the majestic pride, that's what we do. We give you the motivation and the support that you need inside the majestic pride, because we believe that together we all share that same essence of wanting to rise, and together we can.
Well, Queen Kimmie, that is a great note to leave on. And I really, it's been a pleasure getting to know you and learning your story. I thank you so much for being part of the Gutsy Women Club. Um, and so, folks, we are going to wrap up. We're finished with Queen Kimmie, a Gutsy Woman, Queen Kimmie. And until next week, thanks for joining us. Bye bye.